Well, when I was younger at school, I always wanted to be a scientist, a chemist, and stuff like that. But that was going to be pretty impossible because my parents were working class, and my dad thought you left school at 15 and you'd go and work in the factory with him and you'd have a job for life, which he didn't even have a job for life in the end. So I changed my ideas and I got interested in cooking, and then I wanted to be a cook and a chef. I just loved it. And so when I think I was about 17, I got a job out in this town back home in South Australia, and it's in a German town called Harndorf, which was settled by German immigrants that come over from religious persecution. So half of my heritage is from that lot, from Germany. And it's funny because you drive around there and you see so many different Lutheran churches, and people wonder why. And that's because they come over here, and like all humans in the end, they thought they'd have this utopia of all being together, but they all had religious ideas and they all split off into groups and built different churches. So that's sort of what happened then. But anyway, there was this big German-style building that was actually built in the 1800s. It was an old building. And what it was a restaurant, and they'd have a set-course menu every Saturday night for 250 people. Now, back then, they'd pay $25 a head, and they got a 4-course meal, and they got all the wine and beer they could drink. See, and they'd run buses up from the city, and it was always full. Every time it was packed to the rafters, because it was cheap. I don't even know how they made money out of it. But the chef there was Willy. Now, he was actually trained by a 5-star Michelin chef, which was, he was the third to highest recognised chef in Europe. So Willy would just cook like it was just a breeze. And he was fantastic, like a fantastic cook. You know that Swedish chef they'd have on the Muppets? Well, that was Willy. Underneath the table, he had every sort of spirit you could imagine. Right? And he'd go one to the other, to the other. By halfway through the night, the guy would be plastered. Right? But he could still turn out great food. So I started as a waiter. And it was a hard job. You'd go in there first and you'd do all the setup and all that. And then, so I started off doing that. And then I would, people would be drunk and they'd throw things at you. And, I was only a kid. Old battle axes would try to kiss you and touch you. I just hated it. I really didn't like it. So what I did to get out of that, you got to be smart and you got to think ahead. So, Willy would come in and do prep. I would turn up to help Willy do prep. I wasn't paid. And I become friends with Willy, and he taught me a lot of things about cooking trade. And I was really endeared by him. He was just a lovely guy, even though he was a total drunk. And when he was a drunk, he spoke like the Swedish chef. No, you couldn't understand him. But anyway, so this chaotic restaurant, the guy that ran it, he was gay to the sense that he spoke like that. He was a nice guy and all that, but he was no businessman. He had no idea how to run a business. The whole place was chaotic. The actual owners of it were rich people, Chinese from China. They owned it. They would turn up a couple of times a year to check on it and eat there and all that. And they got in on the revelry. Just what happened. And so I learned a lot from old Willy. And somehow his father died in Germany and he went back to run the German restaurant. So he left. And they put this other guy on that was an ex-military cook. And oh my goodness, was he hopeless. He was totally hopeless. Right? He didn't last very long. They went through a lot because you couldn't replace Willy. You couldn't make anything taste like Willy could. He'd do like a chicken and a white wine sauce. And man, it was just to die for. Right? And I know how he made it, yeah. And, it's just, his food just tasted great. And, and then I was thinking, the owner of the business decided to do an Elizabethan night. Right? Where we would have medieval dances, Morris dances, and we'd have medieval poems and people playing the lute and harpsichord. This is true. And I had to dress up in pantaloons. It was really funny. and the whole night you would have thought you were in medieval Europe. It was a total failure of because what happened is no one bought tickets for it. People weren't interested in that. They wanted just to come for the drunken revelry on the weekend. They weren't interested in some high society. I was actually interested in it because it seemed interesting. And anyway, it was a total disaster. So money-wise, because in the end no one booked. So he just invited all his friends from the gay community and all that, and that went down well. Well, I always felt uncomfortable because I'm not gay, but everyone to their own. It's none of my business. As long as they don't push it on me or push it on children, they can do what they damn well like. It's their own business. Don't start me on marriage and all that. That's a different thing. Because I'm a big believer in the family unit. But anyway, he got the sack. And funny thing about that, a few weeks after that, it just caught on fire and it burnt to the ground. I really don't know why. It just burnt to the ground. Sometimes that's the best way out of a business when it's not doing well.